Have you ever wanted to get into the Ivy League? Have you dreamed of the successful life you'd have if you did so? Have you watched hundreds of thousands of videos trying to find an answer to the age-old question of, how do I get in? And never found one? Well, sit back, relax, and take it all in. Because you're about to learn how to do just that here today. But before we get there, let me tell you a quick story. If you haven't watched this video right here, I highly suggest you pause here, watch that video, and come back to this video to get a full background on different types of schools and the type of students each school tends to accept. However, as a quick refresher, the different school types are Humanities Havens, schools that specialize in humanities and tend to accept students interested in those fields; Technology Towns, schools who specialize in the STEM fields and tend to accept students who are interested in STEM as well; Political Science Paradises, schools who specialize in political science and the social sciences and tend to accept students who are interested in those fields; and finally, Business Boroughs, schools who are dedicated to their business schools and accept students interested in business and the finance spaces. Similar to that, on the student side, there are 5 common student types, those being the STEM Scholar, a student whose resume is peppered and colored by their passion for and participation in the STEM fields; the Humanities Intellectual, a student whose extracurricular experience in high school is dominated by their experiences in the humanities; the Sharp Social Scientist, a student obsessed with the social sciences and spends most of their time exploring that particular passion; the Professional Polymath, a student who's interested in a number of different subjects, extracurriculars, and does them all very well; and then finally, the Athletic Academic, an athletic student whose resume is mostly composed of their athletic achievements and accomplishments. Now, Princeton is a political science paradise, so the advice given in this video will be the best advice any student should apply if they hope to get not only into Princeton, but similar schools like it as well. With all that being said, here's the strategy and advice each type of student can use to get into a school like Princeton. We're going to look at what it takes for each archetype of student to get into a school like Princeton and what they would need to do each year, starting from their freshman year, going all the way to the winter of their senior year, to have the best chance of getting in. The Sharp Social Scientist faces a somewhat similar problem humanities intellectuals face when applying to the schools they want. This problem being that there are so many applicants of this type that oftentimes it's very tough to stand out from them. However, for this particular school, they actually receive a slight boost in their chances of being accepted. As mentioned before, Princeton is a political science paradise, which for the Sharp Social Scientist is a good school for them to apply to. They on average get a 1.07 multiplier on their odds of making it to the school, which increases their odds from 5.5% to 5.89%. It isn't a large increase, but it is an increase nonetheless. In other words, about 1 out of 17 Sharp Social Scientists who apply to Princeton make it into the university. Now let's take a look at what a person needs to do starting from their freshman year to be that 1 out of 17 who does in fact make it into Princeton. Summer still lingers in the air as you take your first steps as a freshman in high school. As I mentioned before when discussing humanities intellectuals, this is where the college race truly begins. How you start this race, the foundation you build will either give you a much better chance of getting into the school of your dreams or make those dreams much harder to achieve. This year, for all students, is about exploration. This means that you should stay open-minded about the different classes you're taking, looking to see which, if any, you find interesting, and figure out the things you don't want to do. Once you're able to answer that question, it becomes much easier to figure out what you actually do want to do. Some important questions you want to answer during this time are: 1. Which fields do I find the most interesting? Is it math and sciences or the humanities and social sciences? 2. Are there any sports that interest me enough into committing to them for a full season for a number of years in order to make a varsity position and qualify for a leadership role? Figuring these two things out at this point in your high school career will give you a massive leg up over the competition and place you in a phenomenal position to succeed later on in your high school career. Now fast forward to the summer after your freshman year, and you're a little clearer about what you want to do. You know that you don't like math and science too much, and you're not interested in participating in a sport for a number of years in your high school career. With that information, you head into your sophomore year. Now you're a sophomore. You have 1 full year under your belt now. You're not quite a veteran at this school, but you know your way around and you're familiar with how the school works. You're friendly with some of the teachers at the school and have a much better idea of your place in the school environment. This year, however, things are going to become much more serious, especially for those who are interested in the humanities or social science fields. And during this year, it's important that a student starts to distinguish themselves as either a humanities intellectual or a sharp social scientist. While most other students have a little bit of wiggle room to figure themselves out a little bit more, aspiring sharp social scientists have to make this decision by the end of their sophomore year so that they can take the required classes and, most importantly, do the required extracurriculars to build on their resume and stand out to the colleges they want to get into. If a student is leaning towards becoming a sharp social scientist at this stage in their high school career, they need to ask themselves 3 critical questions for the end of this year. 1. Am I more interested in the humanities or social science fields? 2. If I am interested in the social science fields, which classes do I need to take next year to put myself in a good academic position heading into my senior year? 3. What social science extracurriculars can I do and commit to starting my sophomore year so that I can attain leadership positions in those clubs by the fall of my senior year? Answering these 3 questions will set a student up for maximum success when they truly start the college application process in their junior year. After a fairly eventful summer of hanging out with friends, traveling with friends and family, we're back in school for the autumn of your junior year, a year when things become much more intense. Now, out of all the years in their high school career, the junior year of a sharp social scientist high school career is the most important. During this year, they have a number of questions to answer, things to complete, and places to go to before the start of their senior year. During this year, we advise that all students applying to schools of an elite caliber like Princeton take AP level classes in both the humanities and social science fields, if possible. Courses like AP United States History, AP European History, AP Literature, AP Language and Composition, AP Government and Politics, etc. all fit this bill and are fantastic academic coursework for a high school student's resume. Beyond that, students who are especially of this archetype need to focus heavily on securing leadership positions in the extracurriculars they're participating in. This will be what truly separates those who will ultimately get into the elite schools they want and those who will be frozen out of them. Now let's fast forward to the spring of your junior year. At this point, you're rounding the corner heading towards the final destination, the winter of your senior year. During this time, a student should set themselves up early so that they're in a good position to be off to the races once they start their applications in the fall. Just like for the humanities intellectual, this entails asking for recommendations from the tutors you want early, usually in the spring of your junior year, touring the schools you're interested in that spring or summer before your senior year, taking the SAT at least 2 times before the end of the summer before your senior year, and starting the process of writing the initial draft of your common application essays. With all this in place, we can fast forward to the summer of your junior year where everything is finally taken into account. This summer is the most important summer for every single type of student. And for those who are in steep competition for a limited number of spots, it's even more important. Your goal for this summer is to finalize your application essays and do extensive research on the schools you're looking to apply to. By doing this, you'll be in a fantastic position to capitalize on the very thing that'll be key for you getting into Princeton: early admission. As I mentioned before, I can do an entire video speaking on this point in time in a student's application alone. But what matters is that you've completed as much as possible of your application to these various schools, or at least set yourself up to do so, before the autumn of your senior year. Now finally, we enter the fall of your senior year of high school. Here's where we can go into the nitty-gritty as it relates to specific strategy for applying to Princeton as a sharp social scientist. Now it's finally the autumn of your senior year, a time when everything you did in the previous 3 years of high school finally comes into play. Before this point, everything you did was simply set up to help put you in the position to get into Princeton. Now let's talk about how you'll actually get in. The very first thing you'll want to do is apply early. Applying early is your best friend. I cannot stress this enough. Students who apply early, especially those who are among the top level applications to a given school, get a tremendous boost in terms of their odds of making it into the school they want. Let me explain how. Looking online, the accepted early application rate for someone applying to Princeton hovers right around 15%. Now, do you know what the regular application rate is? Less than 3%. These two wildly differing numbers is why a student who is interested in going to an Ivy League school needs to apply early to that school. They get a substantial increase of their odds of getting in because there are simply fewer people applying, and thus more of a chance to wow an admission officer and claim those critical yes spots. The next thing all sharp social scientists need to do if they want to be the 1 out of 17 who apply to Princeton and get in is focus on showing teamwork and collaboration all throughout their application. This is critical. While it's a good thing to demonstrate individual competency, what elite schools are looking for from these type of students is an ability and willingness to work with and collaborate with other students towards a shared goal. Schools like Princeton, Harvard, Yale have a number of political organizations and clubs where students need to work together to achieve something great. For example, clubs like the American Whig Cliosophic Society and the Princeton Undergraduate Student Government are clubs which require extensive collaboration and teamwork. Demonstrating these traits in your application reveals to Princeton that you belong at the university and will fit right in. Third and final thing a sharp social scientist should do to give themselves the best odds of getting into Princeton is highlight their leadership ability and potential throughout their application. Just like with teamwork, demonstrating leadership and the ability to be a mentor to a group of people goes a long way in a college application. In the social science space, there are ample opportunities to be a leader as a number of activities and groups often have captains, officers, and people in charge of running different groups. As Princeton prides itself on being a school that cultivates the next generation of future leaders, demonstrating leadership ability will definitely catch the eye of admissions officers at the school and help show them in no uncertain terms that you belong there. I could use an entire video breaking down this particular strategy even more, as there are a number of things a sharp social scientist could do to improve their application even further. If you'd like to see that, leave a comment below letting me know, and I'll be sure to make a video diving even deeper into this particular topic. But in broad terms, the 3 steps to getting into Princeton are as follows. Step 0. Set yourself up for success. This step is the step that gives you a fighting chance of being considered in the first place by a university like Princeton and getting your foot in the door, so to speak. This means that a student needs to have taken and done fairly well in the SAT, taken a few, if not more, humanities and social science-based AP tests and scored well on them, and also participate in eye-catching clubs and extracurriculars that make them stand out long before they ever start to apply to college. This step is the most important step and helps put a student in a good position for the following steps. Step 1. Apply early. This applies to all students who want to get into a particular school in the Ivy League. If you have a dream school in mind that you'd like to go to, make sure you apply early to that school. There are a number of benefits that come from applying early, but the main one is that your odds of getting into school like Princeton, Harvard, Stanford, etc. can increase 5, 6, or 7-fold by simply applying early. Every student, especially sharp social scientists, should capitalize on this advantage by putting themselves in the position to apply early with a stellar application. Step 2. Show your teamwork abilities. Elite schools are looking for elite students who work well with other elite students. While individual achievements are wonderful and are what will get you in the door to start, demonstrating that you can work well with others and plan to do so is what will give you a leg up in being accepted into the Princeton community. Step 3. Highlight your leadership ability. This last step is the cherry on top of a sharp social scientist college application. It's what takes a good application and makes it truly extraordinary. The reason for this is because, as mentioned before, Princeton is a school that prides itself on cultivating the next generation of future leaders. Thus, finding a student who demonstrates that they can do this and do it effectively is something that will catch the eye of any university, especially one like Princeton. If you're a sharp social scientist, following these 4 including step 0, will give you a substantial increase in your odds of getting into Princeton. While this video did go somewhat in depth into this topic, I recommend taking a look at some of the helpful links in the description box below, as it contains helpful material that goes much deeper into this topic than I could have done so here. If you'd like me to make a video diving even deeper into these subjects and the strategies for this type of student, just leave a comment below letting me know and I'll be sure to make one. Now let's move on to the STEM Scholar.